What is up, guys? Welcome back to Switch 2 Next Gen. The Nintendo 3DS library is a massive treasure trove, and the internet completely slept on some of its absolute best hidden gems. From steampunk tactical warfare to hunting real-world spirits with your Wi-Fi, these are 20 underrated titles you need to play right now. Let's dive in! Imagine taking the cozy charm of a town builder and smashing it together with the puzzle-heavy dungeons of classic Zelda. That is the magic of Ever Oasis, a brilliant action role-playing game directed by Mana series creator Koichi Ishii that landed on the 3DS in June 2017. You play as a seedling chief building a lush sanctuary in a harsh desert. The loop is incredibly addictive. You manage your haven by building shops called Bloom Booths and fulfilling resident requests, then venture into dangerous dungeons for resources. Combat is brilliantly dynamic, letting you swap characters mid-fight to instantly chain attacks with twin blades, crossbows, or heavy hammers. You will need those diverse squad members and their unique environmental skills to solve clever puzzles too. There is something deeply satisfying about cleansing the desert, especially when defeating chaos-corrupted monsters purifies them back into peaceful citizens. It is a gorgeous, multi-layered gem that deserved way more love. At number 19, we have codenamed S.T.E.A.M, an incredibly distinct tactical shooter from 2015 developed by the strategy masters at Intelligent Systems. Picture yourself commanding legendary literary and folklore icons under the direct orders of Abraham Lincoln to repel an alien invasion. This steampunk strategy game uses an over-the-shoulder camera where steam points dictate your movement and attacks. Leaving steam in your tank triggers defensive overwatch shots, and any unspent points carry over to boost your movement or firepower on your next turn. Every character also boasts a zero-cost special ability once per stage, like healing winds or stunning roars. While early players complained about agonizingly slow enemy turns, a vital update added a fast-forward toggle that runs beautifully on new 3DS systems, completely saving the pacing of this hidden gem. At number 18, we are heading to a beautifully animated Paris with Rhythm Thief and the Emperor's Treasure. Sega dropped this stylish rhythm adventure crossover in 2012, and it remains one of the most charismatic hidden gems on the system. You play as a teenage art thief searching for his father, solving puzzles on flat and three-dimensional streets, but the real magic is how it puts the hardware to work. Instead of just tapping the touchscreen and timing button presses to the beat, the gameplay throws wild rhythm battles at you that demand you physically tilt the console using the gyroscope to dodge security lasers or pull off flashy dance moves. It even utilized the Street Pass feature to let you gather virtual fans just by passing people in the real world. It is an incredibly slick, toe-tapping caper that deserves way more love than it got. Imagine taking the quiet, calculated patience of solitaire and strapping it to the back of a racing thoroughbred running at 50 miles an hour. That is the chaotic genius behind Pocket Card Jockey, a brilliant little hybrid released by Game Freak on the eShop in May 2016. You play rapid-fire rounds of Golf Solitaire to boost your horse's focus and energy. The speed and efficiency of your card clearing directly translates to your horse's stamina, which you must manage while positioning your steed on a top-down track grid before entering a tense real-time homestretch sprint. Once your champion retires, you can breed new generations of ponies that inherit stats at your private farm, creating a continuous loop of racing and management that is impossible to put down. It is one of the most uniquely addictive experiences on the entire platform. Imagine a tactical role-playing game where the entire battlefield bends to the rhythm of a vocal J-pop track. That is the genius of Stella Glow, the gorgeous 2015 swan song from developer Imageepoch before they sadly filed for bankruptcy. At its heart, this is a brilliant isometric grid-based strategy game where flanking and high ground advantages dictate your survival, but the real magic happens when you bond with the game's witches during your free time. By diving into puzzle-like submaps to tune their hearts, you unlock devastating song magic. When a witch sings, the background music seamlessly shifts into a fully voiced anthem, completely altering the battlefield rules, providing massive buffs, and turning desperate boss fights into triumphant anime moments. Over a decade after its release, Stella Glow remains one of the most mechanically satisfying and emotionally resonant tactical experiences on the system. Sliding into the number 15 spot is a masterclass in tabletop atmosphere that feels like a physical board game brought to life. Crimson Shroud, released in late 2012 as part of Level 5's Guild 01 compilation, is a brilliant RPG directed by legendary creator Yasumi Matsuno, the mind behind Final Fantasy Tactics. Instead of fully animated characters, your party and enemies are rendered as stationary miniature figurines on diorama boards. When you defeat a foe, their miniature physically tips over, revealing a hidden level 5 logo printed on the bottom of its base. Combat relies on you manually tapping and rolling virtual dice on the touchscreen to drive tactical action and build skill chains. There is zero traditional experience point leveling here. Your stats and capabilities are entirely dictated by managing equipment loadouts and gathering rare loot dropped from turn-based battles. It is a wonderfully tactile, bite-sized gem. Stepping into the number 14 spot, we have a game that perfectly bottles the bittersweet magic of childhood. Developed by Millennium Kitchen and released digitally on the eShop in July 2013, Attack of the Friday Monsters! A Tokyo Tale is a gorgeous, bite-sized narrative masterpiece. You play as Sota, a young boy living in a peaceful 1970s Tokyo suburb where giant kaiju and tokusatsu superheroes actually manifest every single Friday. The entire game is structured like a 26-episode television show, and it is absolutely captivating. To progress, you spend your time wandering the beautifully pre-rendered streets hunting down glowing energy shards called glims. Collecting these glims lets you build a deck of monster cards to challenge the local kids. These battles play out as stylized rock, paper, scissors matches, which you must win to uncover town secrets and ultimately become the boss of the neighborhood. It is a warm, nostalgic slice of life adventure that proves video games do not need massive scales to leave a massive impact. Sneaking onto the platform as a launch title in March 2011, Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Shadow Wars is the stealth strategy masterpiece you probably missed while eyeing up bigger names. Think of it as Fire Emblem with guns mixed with the tactical DNA of modern XCOM. You command a specialized 6-soldier squad across tight isometric grids, where victory relies entirely on securing the high ground and exploiting dynamic cover. The tactical loop is incredibly satisfying, especially when managing class-specific traits. Take the Commando class, which functions as mobile human artillery. By using line of sight and elevation, you can deploy devastating, long-range indirect fire missiles to vaporize enemy cover. Balancing your limited ammunition while positioning your sniper for the perfect flank turns every mission into a high-stakes chess match. Over 15 years since its debut, this brilliant strategy gem still outshines most modern competitors. At number 12, we have a mind-melting hybrid that deserves way more love. Imagine taking the cutthroat, property-hoarding madness of Monopoly and smashing it directly into a deep, tactical deck builder. That is exactly what developer Omasse pulled off with Culdcept Revolt. Released back in 2017 for Western players, this hidden gem tasks you with building a customized 50-card deck, known as a book, from a massive pool of over 400 unique spells, weapons, and monsters. You roll virtual dice to traverse the board, spending mana to summon fantasy creatures onto empty tiles. When a rival lands on your territory, they face a brutal choice: pay a steep toll, or initiate a turn-based card battle using their own hand to seize control of your space. Combining an extensive single-player campaign with multiplayer modes, this is an addictive strategy masterpiece that still feels entirely unique. Imagine exploring a dungeon, knowing that if you take too long to dispatch a basic mob, a massive roaming dragon will literally sniff you out and crash the party. That constant threat is what makes 7th Dragon 3 Code VFD such an absolute rush. Released by Sega back in 2016, this stylish dungeon crawler tasks you with traveling across 3 distinct time periods to stop a final dragon invasion. The customization here is incredibly deep. You get to build your active and back row support squads from 9 distinct classes, like the hybrid tank healer Rune Knight, tailoring everything from their portraits to their voices. But the real gameplay loop shines when you take the materials from those slain dragons back to Tokyo. You use them to upgrade your massive corporate skyscraper headquarters, unlocking new floors and features. It is a brilliant mix of tense, turn-based strategy and satisfying progression that deserved way more love when it hit the 3DS. Cracking into our top 10, we have an absolute gem from the masters of Pocket Monsters themselves. Game Freak took a break from their usual RPG grind to deliver HarmoKnight, a brilliant rhythm platformer that arrived internationally in early 2013. You guide a young hero named Tempo who auto-runs through vibrant musical stages. The genius of this game lies in how it handles audio. Every single jump you time correctly and every staff strike you land against an enemy dynamically injects actual notes and percussion directly into the background track. You are not just playing along to a song, you are actively composing it as you run. To keep things fresh, the game throws in alternate playable characters like Lyra the Archer and Tycho the Brute, who completely flip the rhythm mechanics on their head. It is incredibly satisfying to hear a stage's melody build around your perfect inputs, turning a standard platformer into a living, breathing symphony of your own making. At spot number 9, picture piloting a high-flying humanoid mecha as the literal president of New Japan, diving headfirst into frantic aerial battles to liberate your country. That is the wild premise of Liberation Maiden, a stellar 2012 shoot-'em-up from Grasshopper Manufacture. First hitting Japan in May of 2012 as part of the Guild 01 compilation, it arrived as a standalone digital release in Europe and North America later that October. What makes this action work so brilliantly is how it demands absolute touchscreen dexterity. You drag and sweep your stylus across the bottom screen to paint target locks over swarms of enemies, letting loose a glorious volley of homing missiles. But here is the catch. Your offensive weapon charge and your defensive shields share the exact same energy pool. It forces a frantic, constant risk-reward calculation in the heat of battle, all bookended by gorgeous anime cutscenes from Studio Bones. At number 8, we are stepping behind the anvil. Most role-playing games cast you as the legendary hero, but Level 5's 2014 eShop gem Weapon Shop de Omasse hands you the blacksmith's hammer instead. Your job is to forge specialized gear for eccentric adventurers by playing a touchscreen rhythm minigame. You tap away to a musical beat, carefully managing the heat gauge to mold perfect steel. Once the weapons are finished, you do not actually use them. Instead, you rent them out to passing warriors. The real magic happens when you watch their quests unfold in real time through Grindcast, a hilarious simulated social media feed where heroes live tweet their battles, close calls, and absolute blunders. Written by Japanese comedian Yoshiyuki Hirai, the game oozes sharp meta humor that relentlessly roasts classic fantasy tropes. It turns a mundane fantasy chore into one of the most uniquely addictive loops on the entire system. Coming in at number 7, we have a masterpiece that flew under too many radars when it arrived worldwide in March 2018. The Alliance Alive throws out traditional role-playing fatigue by letting you see every single enemy directly on the map, meaning you actually control when you fight. Once you step into battle, you are managing a 5-character party utilizing highly customizable tactical formations that dynamically boost your attack, speed, or healing on the fly. The narrative itself is an epic that splits your perspective across 9 distinct protagonists before their fates finally collide. But the absolute best part is the combat progression. Instead of boring grinding, your weapons dictate your skills, leading to mid-fight awakenings where your characters dynamically learn powerful new moves right when they are facing down lethal bosses. You can even break your own weapons to unleash devastating final attacks. It is brilliant, tactical, and desperately deserves more love. We are sliding into our number 6 spot with a tactical role-playing game that plays less like Fire Emblem and more like a high-stakes game of fantasy bowling. Lord of Magna Maiden Heaven, which hit the 3DS back in June of 2015, has one of the most satisfying combat loops on the system. Instead of just trading blows, your positioning allows you to physically smack frontline enemies and watch them fly backward, knocking into adjacent foes like pins for massive collateral combo damage. If you line up your shot perfectly and wipe out 10 or more enemies in a single turn, the game hands you a bonus turn to keep the onslaught going. Between these chaotic skirmishes, you are managing the quiet Famille Inn and bonding with 7 magical sisters. Chatting them up and building their trust is not just for show, it actually unlocks specialized combat skills and shifts the branching narrative. It is a brilliant blend of cozy slice of life and physics-based strategy. We have reached number 5 on our countdown, and it is time to talk about a game that literally turned your local coffee shop's wireless router into a fantasy spawning ground. The Denpa men, they came by wave, landed on the Nintendo 3DS eShop late in 2012. Genius Sonority delivered a wonderfully bizarre augmented reality dungeon crawler that forced you to get off your couch. By using the system camera as a viewfinder and the bottom screen as radar, you hunted down tiny lycra-clad spirits called Denpa men floating around physical Wi-Fi signals in the real world. The genius hook here is that different routers and locations generate entirely different spirits. A router at the library might give you a fire elemental tank, while your home internet spawns a water healer. You assemble these captured creatures into squads for surprisingly tough turn-based dungeons, and you can even trade them via QR codes. It is a brilliant blend of real-world exploration and classic RPG strategy. Sliding into our number 4 spot is a masterclass in minimalist design from the legendary team at HAL Laboratory. Released on the eShop back in April 2015, BoxBoy strips away all the visual clutter to deliver some of the most satisfyingly pure puzzle platforming on the system. You play as QBB, a simple little square who can spawn, throw, and retract connected chains of boxes directly from his own body. The genius of this mechanic is how incredibly versatile these blocks actually are. You are not just building basic bridges, you are hooking onto ledges, shielding yourself from deadly lasers, and pressing switches across bite-sized stages. There is an immense, brain-tickling satisfaction in figuring out the exact geometry needed to snag each level's hidden crown, which you then spend on adorable custom costumes and music tracks. It is absolute proof that you do not need flashy graphics when your core gameplay loop is this incredibly clever. We are officially cracking into the top 3, and our bronze medal goes to a title that represents peak Nintendo weirdness. Released in April 2014, Rusty's Real Deal Baseball is a masterclass in breaking the fourth wall. On the surface, it is a collection of wonderfully tactile timing-based baseball mini-games like Quick Catch and Bat and Switch, but the true genius lies in the meta-narrative. To actually acquire these games, you have to haggle with a depressed, middle-aged dog named Rusty. You navigate his intense family drama, clean his dusty shop, and bribe him with donuts to negotiate down the real-world prices of the game packs. It turns the stressful chore of retail haggling into an incredibly charming, hilarious RPG of sorts, blending real money management with tight arcade trials. There is absolutely nothing else like it on the system, making it an absolute must-play oddity. Arriving at our number 2 spot is a tactical crossover dream that has no right to exist, let alone play this beautifully. Project X Zone exploded onto the scene in mid-2013, uniting legendary universes from Capcom, Sega, and Bandai Namco into one absurdly ambitious package. Developed by Monolith Soft and Banpresto, this is not your typical slow-paced strategy role-playing game. While you navigate a standard tactical grid to position your units, initiating combat instantly shifts the game into the frantic cross-active battle system. Suddenly, you are playing a gorgeous two-dimensional fighting game. Success relies on executing real-time button input combos, calling in support characters from adjacent tiles to extend your juggle state. The goal is to keep your massive target completely airborne, chaining multi-character onslaughts that fill the screen with chaotic, flashy special moves. It is pure, unadulterated fan service wrapped in surprisingly deep mechanics, making it an absolute must-play for tactical fans. At the absolute summit of our list is the ultimate handheld masterpiece from late 2014, Fantasy Life. Level 5 crafted an addictive progression loop where you fluidly swap between 12 distinct lifes on the fly, including paladins, woodcutters, and alchemists. Materials gathered in your gathering roll feed directly into your crafting class to forge high-tier gear, which then powers up your combat capabilities. But the real stroke of genius is the frantic bounty system. Striking down elite bosses, mining rare mineral deposits, or felling unique trees drops physical bounty boxes. You must manually drag these precious bags all the way back to a town clerk to cash them in. The catch is that hostile overworld enemies will target and attempt to destroy your cargo on sight, turning a routine trek home into a tense, high-stakes escort mission. It is the perfect blend of cozy life sim and action role-playing, making it our undisputed number 1 choice. 20 absolute masterpieces proves the dual-screen era was packing way more heat than just its heavy hitters. If you smash that like and subscribe, you can help us keep unearthing the forgotten classics. If you are looking to dig even deeper into overlooked libraries and find more brilliant hidden gems, check out our list of the best Nintendo Switch hidden gems you probably missed. Click the video on screen right now.